Up Chapter 1. New Life. The city of Lethbridge was quiet that evening. The sun had already begun to set as Gabriel finished a long walk around the city. The cool air felt refreshing, and the peaceful evening gave him time to think about life, his family, and the future. He always enjoyed walking. It helped clear his mind and gave him time to reflect on things. Eventually, he returned to his apartment. Nothing seemed unusual. Nothing hinted that his life was about to change forever. After taking off his shoes and relaxing for a few minutes, Gabriel headed into the kitchen to make dinner. He wasn't looking for anything fancy, just something simple. He cracked a few eggs into a bowl and whisked them together before adding cheese, a little black pepper, and some parmesan. Soon, the smell of a fresh omelet filled the apartment. He toasted a couple slices of bread and sat down to enjoy his meal. As he ate, he watched a few episodes of anime. Gabriel had always enjoyed stories about adventure, heroes, friendship, and people being transported to other worlds. They were fun to watch and allowed him to imagine what it would be like if something incredible happened in his own life. Of course, that kind of thing only happened in stories. Or so he thought. Hours later, feeling tired, Gabriel shut everything off and headed to bed. He pulled the blankets over himself and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep. When Gabriel opened his eyes again, something felt wrong. The first thing he noticed was the smell. Fresh grass, flowers, pine trees. His eyes opened fully. Above him wasn't the ceiling of his apartment. Instead, there was a bright blue sky. Gabriel blinked several times. Huh? He sat up quickly. Grass brushed against his hands. A cool breeze flowed through the area. Towering trees surrounded him in every direction, and in the distance he could hear the sound of flowing water. A waterfall. For a moment, Gabriel simply stared. Then realization hit him. His eyes widened. His heart started racing. He looked around excitedly. No way. He stood up. No way. He looked around again. Then a huge smile spread across his face. No way, Gabriel laughed. I've seen this 1,000 times before. Instead of panicking, he was almost excited. Anime, light novels, manga, stories about people being transported to another world. He knew exactly what this looked like. Of course, there was still a chance he was dreaming. But before he could think further, a glowing blue screen suddenly appeared in front of him. Welcome, Gabriel. Gabriel pointed dramatically at the screen. I knew it! The screen remained floating in front of him. Name, Gabriel Race, Unique Black Wolf Kin Level 1. Maximum level, 1,000. Gabriel stared. Then looked down at himself. Only now did he realize something felt different. Much different. He looked at his hands. Large black fur-covered hands. Sharp claws, powerful muscles. He quickly ran toward a nearby stream. Looking into the water, he finally saw himself. A massive black wolf-like being stared back at him. Standing nearly 8 feet tall. Bright blue eyes, black fur, powerful limbs. His blue shirt and black shorts somehow remained intact. Gabriel couldn't help smiling. Okay. This is actually awesome. A new voice suddenly echoed through the area. Gentle, calm, motherly. Greetings, Gabriel. Gabriel immediately looked around. Who's there? A beautiful figure made of golden light appeared before him. The goddess. The ruler of this world. Gabriel immediately became serious. The goddess smiled warmly. I apologize for bringing you here without warning. However, my world desperately needs your help. The goddess raised her hand. Images appeared in the air. Massive cities, armies, castles, millions of people. Then war, fire, destruction, death. This world is called Etheria. It is 4 times larger than Earth and home to over 200 billion people. 8 great factions exist: humans, dark elves, light elves, dwarves, animal people, dragonkin, seakin, demonkin. The images changed again. Gabriel watched carefully. The humans, light elves, and dwarves viewed the other factions as evil. Generations of hatred had divided the world. Now war was approaching. A war that could kill billions. The goddess looked directly at him. You are not here to conquer the world. You are not here to rule it. You are here to save it. Gabriel stood quietly. The excitement from earlier slowly faded. The reality of the situation began to sink in. This wasn't a game. This wasn't anime. This was real. Then another thought entered his mind. His family, his mother, his father, his 6 brothers, the people he loved. His smile faded. For several minutes he said nothing. A painful ache formed in his chest. He didn't know if he would ever see them again. The thought hurt more than he expected. The goddess noticed. I am sorry. Gabriel looked toward the sky. Part of him wanted to cry, part of him wanted to be angry, part of him wanted to go home. But another part of him understood that none of those things would help right now. After taking a deep breath, he nodded. If I'm here? He looked around the massive forest. Then I might as well do my best. The goddess smiled. That is one reason I chose you. Moments later, she vanished. Gabriel was alone, completely alone. The sun was already beginning to lower toward the horizon. Night would arrive eventually. That meant one thing: shelter. Immediately. Using fallen branches, logs, leaves, and whatever materials he could find, Gabriel got to work. The project wasn't easy. Several times things collapsed. Several times he made mistakes. Several times he wished he actually knew how to build a shelter. Still, he refused to quit. Hour after hour he worked. Eventually, a rough structure stood among the trees. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't impressive, it definitely wasn't something an expert would praise. But it would protect him from wind and rain. And right now, that was enough. As darkness slowly covered the forest, Gabriel sat outside his newly built shelter. The sounds of nature filled the air. He looked up at the stars, stars that belonged to another world, a new life, a new body, a new purpose, and an uncertain future. Somewhere beyond the horizon, kingdoms prepared for war. But Gabriel didn't know that yet. Tonight, he was simply a man from Earth, sitting outside a shelter he had built with his own hands. Tomorrow would be the first day of his new life. End of Chapter 1. New Life. Chapter 2. Learning My New Body. Morning arrived slowly. Golden sunlight filtered through the trees and shined across Gabriel's rough shelter. The black wolf slowly opened his eyes. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then reality returned. The forest, the goddess, the new world, his new body. Gabriel sat up and stretched. Every movement still felt strange. His arms were larger, his legs were stronger, his entire body felt heavier and more powerful than it had ever been on Earth. Looking down at his black fur-covered hands, he smiled. Part of him was still shocked. Another part of him was excited. Ever since he was younger, he had imagined what it would be like to become an anthropomorphic wolf. Now it had happened. Not in a game, not in a story, but for real. He stood up and walked outside his shelter. The morning air was cool and refreshing. For several minutes, he simply looked around the forest. Then he remembered something. His stats, his abilities, his strength. I should probably see what I can actually do. The system immediately appeared before him. Gabriel race, unique black wolf kin. Level 1, strength, lift 1,500 pounds. Top speed 120 miles per hour. Reaction time 12 milliseconds. Gabriel grinned. Let's test this. The first thing he tried was strength. After searching around the forest, he found a massive fallen tree. Back on Earth, he wouldn't have been able to move it at all. Now he grabbed it with both hands. He took a deep breath, then lifted. The enormous log rose off the ground. Gabriel's eyes widened. Holy crap. He couldn't believe it. He laughed loudly. The sound echoed through the forest. This is awesome! For the next hour, he tested his strength, lifting rocks, moving fallen trees, carrying things that would have been impossible before. Every test confirmed the same thing. He was much stronger than any normal human. After that came speed. Gabriel walked into a large open clearing. He took a deep breath, then ran. The world blurred around him. Trees rushed past. Wind exploded against his face. His powerful legs launched him forward faster and faster. The forest became a blur of green and brown. When he finally stopped, he had traveled farther than he expected. Much farther. His heart pounded with excitement. He couldn't stop smiling. For the first time since arriving in this world, he felt genuinely happy. Yet the happiness didn't last forever. As he sat beside a stream later that day, thoughts of home returned. His mother, his father, his 6 brothers, the people he loved, the people he missed. A heavy sadness settled inside him. He didn't know if he would ever see them again. The thought hurt. But eventually he took a deep breath and stood back up. He couldn't change that right now. What he could do was keep moving forward. The goddess had chosen him for a reason. Giving up wouldn't help anyone. Not himself. Not his family. Not this world. So Gabriel spent the rest of the day exploring. He searched for roads, villages, cities, anything that might tell him where he was. But he found nothing. Only forests, mountains, rivers, an endless wilderness. Part of him wasn't surprised. If humans, elves, and dwarves already viewed animal people with suspicion, he would need to be careful. His appearance alone might cause problems, especially if people already feared his race. Best behavior, Gabriel. He chuckled. Don't scare anybody. Since he couldn't find anyone, he spent more time learning his abilities. He practiced running, jumping, climbing, tracking scents, listening for distant sounds. His wolf senses were incredible. He could hear animals moving through the forest. He could smell water from far away. He could even detect creatures hiding nearby. As the afternoon continued, he began feeling more comfortable in his new body. Not completely, but better. Then everything changed. A loud crash echoed through the forest. Gabriel immediately turned. Another crash followed. Then a roar. A deep, powerful roar. Something big was very big. The trees shook. Birds exploded into the air. Gabriel's ears flattened. His instincts immediately warned him. Danger. A massive creature burst from the forest. It stood nearly 12 feet tall. Its body resembled a giant boar covered in thick armor-like scales. Tusks, as long as swords, protruded from its mouth. Red eyes locked onto Gabriel. The creature roared. Gabriel swallowed. Well, the boar charged. The ground trembled beneath its weight. Gabriel barely managed to leap aside. The creature smashed into a tree and shattered it completely. Okay, Gabriel shouted. Definitely not friendly. The battle began. The boar attacked again and again. Each charge was powerful enough to destroy trees, but Gabriel's speed allowed him to avoid the worst of it. After several minutes, he spotted an opening. As the beast rushed forward, Gabriel planted his feet, then threw everything he had into a single punch. The impact echoed through the forest. The creature stumbled, then collapsed. Silence followed. Gabriel stood there breathing heavily. His first battle, his first victory, his first meal. As the sun began setting, Gabriel carefully prepared the meat over a fire. Before eating, he bowed his head. Thank you for this food. It wasn't a long prayer. It didn't need to be. He was simply grateful. Grateful to be alive. Grateful for the meal. Grateful for another day. As darkness covered the forest once again, Gabriel sat outside his shelter, eating his first dinner in another world. The stars shone brightly overhead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for now, he was content. He had survived another day, and his journey had only just begun. End of chapter 2, Learning My New Body. Chapter 3, The First Town. The next morning, Gabriel woke up feeling much better than he had the previous 2 days. His shelter had survived the night. The fire had stayed lit long enough to keep him warm. Most importantly, he had food in his stomach. After eating a simple breakfast from the remaining meat he had cooked the night before, Gabriel decided it was time to find civilization. There was only so much he could learn by wandering through the wilderness. If he wanted answers, he needed people. So he began walking. Hours passed. The massive forest stretched endlessly in every direction. Occasionally, he spotted animals, rivers, and strange plants he had never seen before. Then, around midday, he heard voices. His ears immediately perked up. People. Real people. Carefully moving through the trees, Gabriel eventually spotted a small merchant wagon stopped on the side of a road. 2 humans and a dwarf were trying to repair a broken wheel. For a moment, Gabriel hesitated. The goddess had already warned him that many humans, elves, and dwarves viewed animal people with suspicion. Still, he couldn't avoid civilization forever. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out from the trees. The 3 travelers immediately froze. Their eyes widened. The dwarf grabbed a hammer. One of the humans reached for a sword. Gabriel quickly raised both hands. Please don't attack me. The 3 stared. Gabriel stood over 8 feet tall and looked intimidating without even trying. Still, his voice remained calm. I don't want any trouble. Several tense moments passed. Finally, one of the merchants lowered his weapon slightly. You can talk? Gabriel blinked. Of course I can talk. The dwarf looked embarrassed. Fair point. After a few minutes, the tension eased. Gabriel helped them lift the wagon. The travelers were shocked when he practically raised one side by himself. Soon the wheel was fixed. The merchants thanked him and pointed him toward the nearest town. Before leaving, Gabriel felt relieved. His first interaction with people hadn't ended in disaster. That was a good sign. By late afternoon, Gabriel finally saw it. Walls, buildings, people. A town. A smile appeared on his face. After days in the wilderness, the sight felt almost magical. As he entered through the gates, many people stared, children pointed, merchants whispered, a few guards watched him carefully. Gabriel expected this. An 8 foot tall black wolf person wasn't exactly common. Still, nobody attacked him. That was progress. As he walked through the streets, Gabriel remembered countless anime, games, and fantasy stories he had watched over the years. One thought immediately entered his mind. First things first, the Adventurer Guild. If there was one place where unusual people would fit in, it was probably there. After asking several locals for directions, Gabriel eventually found a large building with a sword and shield emblem hanging above the entrance. The Adventurer Guild. He grinned. This feels familiar. Walking inside, he immediately noticed dozens of adventurers. Humans, dwarves, elves, a few beast folk. Conversations filled the room. The smell of food drifted through the air. At the front desk sat a young receptionist. She looked surprised when Gabriel approached. Still, she remained professional. Welcome to the Adventurer Guild. How may I help you? I'd like to become an adventurer. The receptionist smiled. Then you'll need to complete a qualification request. She handed him a form. Gabriel quickly filled it out. A few minutes later, she returned. Your qualification task is simple. She handed him a paper. Qualification quest. Eliminate 5 forest razor fangs threatening travelers near the Eastern Road. Reward, guild registration. Gabriel accepted immediately. It wasn't a difficult mission. At least, he hoped it wasn't. As he walked toward the Eastern Road, another thought entered his mind. A very personal one. He laughed quietly. Well, if I'm stuck in this world for years, he scratched the back of his head, it would be nice to find someone someday. Not just someone attractive. Someone kind, someone he could trust, someone he could build a future with. Of course, that wasn't exactly his priority right now. First, he needed money, food, a place to live. Survival came before romance. Still, the thought made him smile. The qualification mission went surprisingly well. The forest razorfangs turned out to be dangerous wolf-like monsters. For ordinary people, they could be deadly. For Gabriel, however, they were manageable. Using his strength and speed, he defeated all 5. The battles weren't effortless, but they taught him valuable lessons. Most importantly, he gained confidence. He was beginning to understand his abilities. When he returned to town near sunset, the receptionist seemed impressed. You completed it already? Gabriel handed over proof of completion. The receptionist's eyes widened. Congratulations. You are now officially an adventurer. A new guild card was placed into his hands, his first official achievement in this world. Gabriel couldn't stop smiling. Unfortunately, a new problem immediately appeared. Housing. Finding somewhere to stay wasn't easy. Many inns were expensive. Others were already full. A few owners seemed uncomfortable renting a room to a giant wolf man. After nearly 2 hours of searching, he finally found a small boarding house willing to rent him a room. The room wasn't impressive. The bed was a little small. The walls were old. The furniture had clearly seen better days, but it was warm, safe, and affordable. For now, that was enough. That night, Gabriel sat beside the window looking out at the town. Only a few days ago, he had been living in an apartment in Lethbridge. Now he was an adventurer in another world. The thought still felt unreal. Yet as he looked at his guild card resting on the table, he smiled. Little by little, he was building a new life. And tomorrow would bring new opportunities. End of chapter 3, The First Town. Chapter 4, A Simple Act of Kindness. The next morning, Gabriel woke up early. His room at the boarding house still wasn't very comfortable, but it was better than sleeping outside. As sunlight poured through the window, he sat up and stretched. Another day, another opportunity. After getting ready, Gabriel headed downstairs and left for the Adventurer Guild. The streets were already busy. Merchants opened their shops, children ran through the streets. Workers prepared for another day. For a brief moment, Gabriel smiled. Despite being in another world, life wasn't completely different from Earth. People were still people. When Gabriel entered the guild, a few adventurers immediately noticed him. Some nodded politely, others simply stared. A small group sitting near one of the tables began whispering. One of them laughed. Look at the oversized mutt. Another snickered. I didn't know the guild accepted stray animals. Several others laughed. Gabriel heard every word. His wolf ears made that impossible to avoid. For a moment, the room grew quiet. Some adventurers looked uncomfortable. Others waited to see what would happen. Gabriel simply continued walking. He ignored them completely. The receptionist smiled sympathetically. You don't seem upset, Gabriel shrugged. There will always be people who say bad things. The receptionist blinked. Gabriel smiled. I can't control what they say. I can only control how I respond. The receptionist looked surprised. Most adventurers would have started a fight. Gabriel simply chose kindness. After checking the quest board, Gabriel selected a simple request. A local farmer needed several dangerous creatures removed from his fields. Nothing complicated, nothing heroic, just honest work. The job took most of the morning. The creatures weren't especially powerful, and Gabriel was beginning to grow more comfortable with his abilities. By midday, the work was complete. The grateful farmer paid him for the job and even offered him a free drink. When Gabriel returned to town, he counted his earnings. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I should save as much as possible. He didn't know what the future held. Having money saved would help later. As for food, Gabriel had already made a decision. Whenever possible, he would hunt for his own meals. That would allow him to spend less and save more. Later that afternoon, Gabriel left town and entered the nearby forest. The peaceful sounds of nature surrounded him. Birds chirped overhead, leaves rustled in the wind. Everything seemed calm. Then he heard something. A scream, a child's scream. Gabriel froze. His ears immediately turned toward the sound. Another cry followed. This time louder. Fear. Panic. Someone was in trouble. Without hesitation, Gabriel sprinted toward the noise. The forest blurred around him. Within seconds, he reached the source. A frightened young boy was struggling while two rough-looking men dragged him through the trees. The child was crying. Help! The kidnappers looked up just as Gabriel stepped into the clearing. The sight of an 8-foot-tall black wolf was enough to make both men freeze. Gabriel's blue eyes narrowed. What are you doing? One of the men tried to sound brave. Mind your own business. Gabriel took a single step forward. The ground seemed to shake beneath his weight. The kidnappers suddenly looked much less confident. I'll ask again. His voice remained calm. What are you doing? The two men released the child. Then they ran, as fast as they could. Gabriel didn't bother chasing them. The important thing was the boy. The child quickly ran behind Gabriel. Tears still filled his eyes. Are they gone? Gabriel knelt down. His intimidating appearance softened immediately. Yeah, they're gone. The boy wiped his eyes. Thank you. Gabriel smiled. No problem. After calming the child, Gabriel learned where he lived. Together, they made their way back toward town. The boy's parents were already searching frantically. When they spotted their son, relief immediately filled their faces. The mother rushed forward and hugged him tightly. The father looked moments away from crying. After hearing what happened, both parents repeatedly thanked Gabriel. The father even tried offering money. Gabriel politely refused. I couldn't just leave him. The family thanked him one last time before returning home together. As Gabriel watched them leave, he felt good. Not because of praise, not because of rewards, but because he had helped someone. Sometimes that was enough. As evening approached, Gabriel hunted a small deer in the forest. After preparing the meat, he returned to town. The streets were beginning to quiet down. The sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon. Back in his room, Gabriel cooked his meal and relaxed. Today's quest had been completed. He had earned money, he had helped a family, and he had avoided unnecessary conflict. Overall, it had been a good day. Not an exciting day, not a legendary day, just a good day. As Gabriel finished dinner and looked out the window at the stars above Etheria, he couldn't help but smile. Little by little, he was finding his place in this new world. End of chapter 4. A simple act of kindness. Chapter 5. Finding my place. Several days passed after Gabriel arrived in Etheria. His routine slowly began to take shape. Wake up, visit the guild, complete jobs, hunt for food, return to town, rest, repeat. Life wasn't exciting every day. Most days were simple, but Gabriel didn't mind. He had always believed that doing the right thing wasn't something you did once. It was something you did every day. even when nobody noticed, even when nobody thanked you. So, whenever he had the chance, Gabriel tried to help people. Sometimes it was carrying supplies, sometimes it was helping merchants unload wagons, sometimes it was simply listening when someone needed to talk. Not everyone accepted his kindness, not everyone trusted him, but he kept trying anyway. One afternoon, Gabriel decided to take a long walk through the forest. The weather was pleasant, the breeze was cool, birds sang high above the trees. For several hours, he simply walked. No monsters, no quests, no responsibilities, just nature. It reminded him of home. For a while, he could almost pretend he was back in Canada, back in Lethbridge, back with his family. The thought brought both comfort and sadness. As he sat beside a stream, memories began to surface. His mother, his father, his brothers. He wondered what they were thinking. Had they reported him missing? Were they worried? Had they given up hope? The questions hurt. Gabriel looked down at the water. I hope you're all okay. His voice was quiet. The forest offered no answer. That evening, back in his room, Gabriel knelt beside his bed. He folded his hands. Then he prayed. Not for power, not for riches, not for fame. He prayed for his family. He prayed that they were safe, that they were healthy, that somehow they would find peace despite his disappearance. After finishing, Gabriel sat quietly. A small smile appeared on his face. He suddenly laughed. If Adam and Joshua knew where I was, he shook his head. They'd be so jealous. The thought made him feel a little better. His brothers would probably think being transported to another world was the greatest adventure ever. Of course, they weren't the ones dealing with monsters, guild quests, and sleeping in a tiny room. Still, imagining their reactions made him smile. The following day, Gabriel accepted a small request from a worried family. Their pet had gone missing. The job paid almost nothing. Most adventurers ignored it. Gabriel accepted anyway. The search lasted several hours. Using his enhanced senses, he followed scents through alleyways, streets, and eventually into a wooded area outside town. There, hiding beneath a fallen log, he found the missing animal. A small, fluffy creature that looked somewhat like a cross between a fox and a rabbit. When Gabriel returned it to the family, the children were overjoyed. The parents thanked him repeatedly. The reward wasn't much, but seeing the family happy was worth it. A few days later, another opportunity appeared. Several merchants were worried about traveling through the northern road because of monster activity. Gabriel volunteered to patrol the area for a few days. The merchants seemed uncertain. One of them looked nervous. Another seemed suspicious. Gabriel noticed. He wasn't surprised. Many humans still distrusted animal people, especially someone who looked like him. An 8-foot tall black wolf wasn't exactly easy to ignore. Still, he smiled. I'll do my best. The merchants exchanged glances. None of them looked fully convinced, but they accepted his help. For the next few days, Gabriel patrolled the road. He chased away several dangerous creatures, helped stranded travelers, moved fallen trees blocking the path, and made sure wagons could travel safely. By the end of the week, the northern road was noticeably safer. The merchants appreciated it, even if some still didn't fully trust him. One evening, while walking back toward town, Gabriel thought about everything that had happened since arriving. People still stared. Some still judged him. Others remained cautious. But things were improving, little by little. People were beginning to recognize him. Not as a monster, not as a threat, but as Gabriel. An adventurer, a helper, someone trying to do good. That realization made him happy. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, Gabriel looked toward the distant town. For the first time since arriving in Etheria, he felt like he was beginning to belong. There was still a long road ahead, a lot to learn, a lot to accomplish, but he was moving forward. And for now, that was enough. End of chapter 5, Finding My Place.